Health now, education now, pay later, where we elevate wellness and break down barriers. I'm your host Kunnjal alongside knowledgeable Pooja Bhargava. In this Women's Day special, we are diving deep into the realm of women's health and nutrition, where we uncover the hidden needs and tailoring plans for diverse goals. From childhood nutrition to teen health and young woman vitality, we are on a mission to empower every stages of life. So buckle up and join us on this journey to elevate your health and race above your limitations. Hi Pooja, welcome to Women's Day podcast with Race Above FitCast.
Thank you so much.
So we'll start directly with the segments which are dedicated on Women's Day. So Pooja, from your experience, what are some of the unique nutritional requirements that women often look in their diets, and how do you tailor exercise plans to accommodate diverse needs and goals for women, considering factors like age, fitness level, hormonal changes? How do you do that?
So there are a lot of requirements that generally differ from men only to a varied extent. For example, let's take iron. Now, women lose a lot of blood during their menstruations. That's the reason they need more iron. The blood loss has to be taken care of. At the same time, during pregnancy, you need more hemoglobin because you need that oxygen requirement for the fetal growth. Hence, at that point of time, again, iron requirement for a woman is different than from other phases of her life. So, keeping that in mind, one must keep in mind that foods like spinach, red meat, lentils, and sometimes even fortified cereals with iron will help women in different phases of their life. Now, the second nutrient that women generally tend to overlook as regards their different phases of life is calcium. So, during their growing years, their growth development, their bone development takes place. And at this point of time, your pelvic bone is also forming. So, for a woman, a reproductive organ which is so important, the bone of the pelvic, it is so important that it grows into a healthier zone, and hence calcium comes into force there. At the same time, during pregnancy, during lactation, your calcium is being leached out so that it can also be provided to the baby for its own growth and development. These are the times you would need to take care of your calcium in a unique way. And last but not the least, menopause. That is when, because of a slow decline in estrogen levels, your bone formation stops and your bone deformation increases. This is when calcium is of utmost importance. Folate is another nutrient that is of a unique requirement for a woman, and more so during her conceiving years and during her pregnancy. I would in fact strongly recommend that women who are trying to conceive should actually start their folic acid supplement much before and not wait only to get pregnant. This important nutrient is so vital for the fetal development. This is what helps women to have a strong and a proper cell division so that the neurological disorders that may just come up in the fetus is taken care of. You also get folate from a lot of foods like leafy green vegetables, legumes, but a supplement during this particular phase of a woman's life is very, very imperative. And then we should talk about omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids, of course, are very important even for men, but more so for women because we women are multitaskers. So we handle so many more roles than anyone else, right?
True.
And that's the reason omega-3 helps with a lot of inflammation in the body. Now come on, a woman goes through puberty, then goes through pregnancy, then goes through lactation. There is definitely a lot of change in a woman's body, which somewhere does bring in some inflammation. So omega-3 fatty acids actually act as a great anti-inflammatory food. So consuming foods like a salmon fish or even a mackerel or a trout, basically seafood, more of seawater fish, nuts, seeds, these are very high in omega-3 fatty acids. That is the most important nutrient for a woman in all her phases of life. And then let's talk about vitamin D. especially women living in the northern hemisphere or women who are not getting enough sun exposure can have a vitamin D deficiencies. Also, sometimes we've seen this deficiency very prominent in vegetarians and vegans because most of the vitamin D3 comes from our eggs and from the egg yolks actually, and from a lot of non-vegetarian sources, exactly like your vitamin B12. And of course, exposure to sunlight, deficiency of calcium is only going to impact your D3 more. Now D3 is very important for your moods. It's also very important for your bone formation, and hence it becomes of a vital importance in a woman's life, especially again puberty, pregnancy, lactation, menopause. And last but not the least, a woman also is the most strongest being on earth. God has actually sent us to take care of everyone. We are the nurturers, and hence we handle so much more. We are the ones who actually give birth to a new being, and our muscles come into function there. So, not only because we want to lose weight or we want to look good, but we, the nurturers, have to actually have stronger muscles, stronger bones to go through that birthing process. Also, we have far more hormones than anyone else, I mean the men. So, we have so many good interplay of hormones in our body. So, that's the reason protein comes into action here. Our diets should be very good and rich in lean meats, eggs, soy, fish, legumes. So, not important that you have to only eat meats. There are other ways also to include proteins through plant proteins. And that is going to make us much more stronger because we already are so strong. So now coming to the exercise plans as regards age, fitness level. First and foremost, I would like to really insist on one thing, that women of all ages must exercise. So we should start with a girl child as early as 3 and 4 years of age. That is what is going to have a really good impact on their health and their well-being. So right from 3 years of age, if we put them into some sport activity, or if we put them into a gymnasium class, or let's say their favorite hobby, that could be running, or letting them play out. Unfortunately, the jet age that we are living in, technology has taken over, and that's one reason I have seen sometimes it's so sad when I go out to a restaurant and I see parents want to eat their food, enjoy of course their time out, but then the child is sitting with an iPad or an iPhone and just playing games on the apps. And that is something really disturbs me. So we should start as early as possible when we are talking about the age of a woman. Now, of course, ideally one would say that if you are a young woman, you can do more intense workouts. But you'll be surprised, there are also 50 and 55-year-old women who can still do a lot more that even a younger girl couldn't do. So I wouldn't actually restrict fitness of a woman to age. I would say, what is her current health status? What is her nutritional status? What is her mental well-being like? And that's going to drive what kind of workouts she can do. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that if a woman can't do a HIIT, so a high intensity interval training as we call it, that does not mean that there are no other workouts. There are ample of workouts available. So one can choose to swim, to walk, which is like the most non-weight bearing exercise, a dance class, pick up a hobby, pick up anything that she really enjoys doing it, but must include at least an hour of exercise. Now when it comes to fitness levels, yes, when it comes to fitness levels, it's very important that not only a woman, even a man and even a child, whether a male or a female, should see to it that they include the 5 principles of physical fitness, which is actually variety in their workouts, taking care of their strength, taking care of their endurance. So when I say strength, they could do functional workouts, they could do strength training, they could do something like Pilates and yoga, basically using their own muscle. And then endurance can be any cardio activity like we discussed, walking, swimming, football, etc. etc. Also, they should include flexibility. A lot of times women want to just hurry up because again, it's the new age thing that I'm seeing, that a lot of importance is being given to losing weight, losing weight, looking good. So all we want to do is just want to finish our workouts, just want to do that pump up exercise, and that's it. And then we end up with injuries. So flexibility and balance is very important. That means in every session of their workout, any age, a woman should include some flexibility, some balance. And one of the most important principles of physical fitness, overload, and then progression. Overload. So if they are a little mindful and if they stop comparing themselves with anyone else around in the gym or the yoga class that they are going to, the first thing that people do is they compare and they feel, oh, I'm not doing enough.
True.
But you are doing what your body is capable of, and your body will be capable of much more only if you follow all these principles well. And that's when progression will come in. But if you're going to start overloading yourself, so let's say you did 10 burpees today and the next day you want to do 50 burpees, that's not done. So overload principle should be taken into account, and then progression has to follow. Now coming to hormonal fluctuations. Yes, we women do have a lot of hormones with us. We are blessed with so many guests inside our body, and we must take care of them because we are so good at taking care of all our guests. Hormones can actually be very good guests as long as you know how to serve them. So hormone fluctuations will not happen so long as you follow these 5 principles that we spoke about physical fitness, so long as you actually nourish yourself well, lead a disciplined life, and exercise will only and only help elevate the symptoms of hormonal imbalance. So a lot of times young girls get a stomach ache or are fighting a stomach bug, especially around their PMS periods. That will not happen as long as they are physically active because their muscles around the pelvic bone, around the pelvis region are very active and flexible. So they will not see those cramps coming in.
Okay.
And then, of course, be consistent and include a lot of variety of different exercises.
Okay. So, when we speak of fitness in young children, which you've rightly mentioned, we've also seen many schools incorporating yoga at a younger level, say like 2.5 year in play schools and nurseries, juniors and seniors. So, people have started adapting to healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
So, the education system is also embracing it a lot by incorporating healthy lifestyle, exercising on regular basis, being fit, being energetic at a very young age. So how do you take this improvisation in many of the young crowd as your experience?
So yes, you're right that education systems are changing. Back in our times, all we had was 9 periods, 35 minutes each of drilling and homeworks being given, so much so that we didn't know what Diwali vacation felt like, right? So of course, I'm so glad that the education system is changing. I still remember I would actually act up and say my stomach is paining or I'm not feeling good, and I would get to miss the PT class. And no one would question that.
True.
Right? And if I missed my English class, if I said I have a stomach ache during English class, I would get one tight slap. So this is where the awareness has changed. I'm really glad that the awareness amongst people is changing. Since you discussed your own experience with a 3-year-old, I think I must first give a pat on your back. Because yes, the education system is changing, they are incorporating exercises in their schedule, but at the same time, children learn very early with parents as a lead example. So I'm so sure back at home, she must be seeing you very, very keen on, fitting into exercise into your schedule. She must be seeing you making healthier choices, taking care of your body, and that must have, of course, had a big influence on her. So yes, education system, parents, and the peer pressure all come in force. And I'm only very happy that now I've seen a big change that schools call us to come and speak to
Right.
the kids, give them education on what is right and what is wrong, how to eat a healthier meal in a canteen, how do you choose. So it's going to go a long way, and I must say definitely there is a change in today's times. But at the same time, we need to put in more and more efforts of getting our child to come off from the screen time
Right.
that they are spending on.
And that's eventually going to help parents also to go off screen,
Yes.
which eventually,
Yeah,
they're
it's a two-way process.
exactly. So coming to the next question, what is the concept of power plate and how does it offer a holistic approach to women's health and nutrition? Also, what are some of the practical tips for women to implement the power plate approach into their daily meal and snacking options?
So when you talk about power plate, you will see a lot of different kind of information on the net available. But basically, whatever information that is given on power plate, everybody has defined the power plate according to their own fundamentals.
Right.
But the basic rule remains the same. A power plate is a plate which nourishes you.
Okay.
So a power plate is something which will have food from all the three macronutrient groups, that is your carbohydrates, your proteins and your fats. Now when I say carbohydrates, if I was to give a power plate to my child or to my client, what I would do is ask her to first make sections in that power plate. So half a section and then another half a section I would divide into two other parts.
Okay.
This half section I would actually give to carbohydrates. This is where carbohydrates, which give us our energy, which give us the tool to actually function in life, that comes into force into three different ways. One, through vegetables and fruits. Second, through grains. And third, through simple carbohydrates like the sugar or the jaggery or the glucose, right? So I would divide this plate further into three different parts, the half portion into three different parts. I would fill one huge portion of vegetables. If it's a child definitely looks forward to a small treat, and that's when I would actually inculcate the right eating habit of having a small fruit in the plate and then giving a little part of it to the grain.
Okay.
Here I am actually indirectly telling my child that you are allowed sugar, but you are allowed the healthier versions of sugar.
Right.
So I did not take the fourth kind of carbohydrate here. Then the plate should be divided into two different parts, a larger part of it coming from our proteins and a smaller part of it coming from our good fats. This, according to me, is the most powerful plate. So it's very easy to do this, and especially in an Indian household, it becomes very, very easy. Women should first take care of two different rules which will go very well into this power plate. That means it's going to make it more and more nutritious and more nutrient dense. So the first thing is to include seasonal produce.
Okay.
To include local produce. If you go around now, if you see fruits available outside in the market, I am surprised to see that the watermelon is available at all times.
Right.
Whereas when I was a child, I used to wait for summers so that the green color watermelon would come home, and I would look forward to cut it and have it. But today, at any point of time in the year, I'm having watermelon. So that is where the power plate concept is of no use, because we are not having a produce which is actually seasonal and which is actually so local to us. Most of the nutrients are lost in this entire process of traveling or of having a produce which is not for the season. That means it is actually a GMO modified produce. So this is one of the most important things that I would say women should take care, since they are the nurturers, so they have to take care of this. Then including a variety of foods. For example, different vegetables planned in one day itself. So their breakfast could have two colors of vegetables.
Okay.
Their lunch could have two other color of vegetables, and so on. So that will ensure that you have most of the vitamins and minerals coming from all these different rainbow that you have created through the day. That's going to also help less nutrient deficiencies around the family and, of course, for herself. The fourth thing that I would say is meal planning. The moment she plans her schedule way in advance, in a week before, that will help her decide these colorful varieties that she can include. And at the same time, she can decide whether today this protein can be clubbed with this grain, or this vegetable can be clubbed with this grain better. So, planning ahead really helps. Another thing that a woman can do is making sure that she gets support to actually implement this power plate. A woman definitely is a multitasker and she does it beautifully, but it never hurts to ask for some help around so that even the other family members can take charge of it, can actually learn. In a way, you're educating them also what the power plate should be like.
Okay, so as you've mentioned that the fruits are not anymore seasonal and it's available almost all the months of the year. So do you think the GMO of quality of fruits which we are getting, which we are consuming, whether it's seasonal or non-seasonal, affects the hormonal changes in a woman's body?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, because finally they are also being injected with some different hormone so that they can ape the same fruit that we were otherwise having in our season. So that's the reason, of course, they are having an impact on our hormones. For example, milk. Suddenly today everybody wants to become a vegan and everybody wants to avoid lactose,
Right.
whereas we've grown up having milk and paneer, right? So why is it that suddenly today, so when any patient asks me that should I go off milk because I want to lose weight, I actually laugh it off. The first thing I ask them is, are you seeing any bloating or are you seeing any changes in your gut or in your skin that you want to leave lactose? And they're like, no, we don't want to have it because it's bad. So lactose sugar per se is not bad, but it's the way we had our milk back then and the way milk is being actually processed today. The cows are not grass fed. And then, of course, we have all these dairies claiming that now cows are grass fed. But what are the conditions the cows are living in? They are being injected hormones so that they can produce babies faster and the yield of the milk increases. And that's the reason that milk is causing so many problems in a human body. It was not the case before. Suddenly, today, we hear that a human body is different from an animal body and it cannot digest cow's milk. But at the same time, we are forgetting that an animal cell and a human cell is the same.
True.
So this didn't exist before. So this is what is happening with GMO produced produces.
So when we, as you know, people are not much aware of the products which they should consume, majority of the crowd, is there any way to reverse the hormonal, the imbalance which has already been created due to GMO produce or due to having milks which are adulterated? So is there any reversal way where we can reverse this hormonal damages which have already been, implemented or we've already consumed them? So how can we reverse that?
So of course, it's never too late. Never too late to reverse anything that you want to reverse. So the first and foremost thing is the will to change it.
Okay.
The will to not doubt yourself that you can't do this. Many a times what happens is if somebody is sick, they start believing that I'm never going to get better. But that is where you've defeated the process.
True.
So the moment this has happened, accept it, it happened. Now you've been educated about it. Now believe in what you have to do, and what you're doing then, do it really in a consistent and a disciplined manner. How you can change it is very simple, what we've been talking about. So exercise, not having a sedentary lifestyle, sticking to local produce, sticking to seasonal produce, seeing to it that every time that you eat a meal, you have the power plate concept. If your meal, even a snack, is not fitting into the power plate concept, that means it is not having the main 3 macronutrients, it's not a balanced meal. So that is what is then not going to help you deal with the deficiency or the toxicity that you're carrying.
Okay.
A lot of times people feel that, okay, I have had these produce, I've had patients who come to me, I have just migrated from so and so country and there was only GMO produce there, or I have binged on alcohol, right? I have gone for a wedding and I have binge eaten. Now give me a detox diet.
Right.
Okay, I want to undo everything. What I did for years, I want to undo in 3 days of detox. No, that's not going to happen. Your body detoxifies itself every single night, provided you are actually taking care of your gut. That means you're eating the power plate concept so that your gut receives each nutrient for its various function that it has to play in the body. You're hydrating well, so you're drinking enough water for that gut to have enough soluble matter to digest, to break down that food, and only when that happens will your body absorb that food. Only when the body absorbs that food are you going to get the nutrients from that food, and that is going to give you good vitamins, minerals, and that's going to support your metabolism, your immune function. And then at the same time, taking care of your sleep is as important, because sleep is where your body has less demand from your physical activity, and hence now the brain gushes all the blood circulation towards the repair of each and every cell. So sleep is when our body detoxifies every day.
Okay.
Once we've taken care of exercise, hydration, local produce, seasonal produce, and then at the same time not eating processed food anymore or staying away from it most of the times, and then sleeping well. And then when I talk about sleeping well comes our mental health. A lot of times we don't sleep well because we are overthinkers, or we have so many responsibilities that our to-do list just turns up the moment we are trying to sleep.
Right.
Tomorrow morning I have to get up, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to go, I have to speak to you, right? So all of this runs up and you don't end up sleeping. So are you getting enough me time? The moment you exercise, and the moment you do an exercise which you love doing, and you're not doing just for weight loss but for feeling good, this part is also taken care of.
Okay.
So that's how one can actually undo most of these toxins.
So, Pooja, we've come to the second segment of the podcast, which is Nutritional Road Map, guiding women's health through every age and stage. So, the target age for this segment would be 5 to 11 years. The first question for the segment is, what are the key nutritional requirements for children aged 5 to 11 years, considering their rapid growth and development?
So yes, this is their primary age for growth and development, and especially in a woman child. Already what we are seeing, the new change is that by 10 and 11 years of age now, girls are reaching their puberty age. Well, a lot of it of course has to be blamed on the GMO foods, more processed foods, more fertilizers being used in the crops, and of course sedentary lifestyles and exposure to junk food. But if taken care of right from an early age, 5 years is the right age to actually lead by example.
Okay.
So if a parent is eating healthy, the child will end up eating more so healthier. And the nutrients between an adult and a child are not really different. It's just that their requirement is different. So if your child is more active physically, so there are children who will go for like one sport class, but at the same time you'll see children who will do like 3 to 4 sports in a day because they are more inclined towards it. And that is when maybe the requirement of these nutrients will change. But ideally, more so, they should definitely have a good amount of protein in their diet. So again, when I'm saying protein, it comes from your dals, from your pulses, from your soy. Soy in children should not be very often, not more than once in 15 days, because soy is also very high in phytoestrogens. And estrogen, phytoestrogen means it just mimics the estrogen hormone.
Okay.
Now, of course, it's not going to mimic it so much that a girl sees her periods coming at 7 and 8 years of age. But definitely, it does have some estrogen mimicking, so it's always better to avoid it. Avoid having too much of soy, especially for kids. Eggs are the best protein that one can give their child. Eggs have 100% bioavailability. So eggs are low in fat, no carbohydrates. Not that I am promoting that you shouldn't be having carbohydrates, but basically they are pure protein sources. Egg yolk is very good source of biotin, vitamin K, vitamin D. So it's only going to help a child get more growth and development nutrients like the
Okay.
vitamin D coming in, the vitamin K coming in. Their hair quality is going to get better, along with, of course, the muscle tissue getting stronger. And then comes a balanced meal concept. This should be taught as early as possible. In fact, I feel as early as a 3-year-old should be taught what a balanced meal should be. Of course, again, leading by example. So when you give them a meal, see to it that they know what the grain, why are they consuming the grain.
Okay.
They should know why is a vegetable important, because that fiber is going to help them have a healthier digestive system and a healthier excretory system to avoid constipation. Because many a times what happens in this age group is they are more into the play mode,
Correct.
so they will end up skipping their meals, and of course then fiber takes a back seat, water definitely takes a back seat, and then we see gut issues like constipation, headaches in such small kids.
Okay.
We see concentration issues, they are not able to study. We've seen migraines very rampant now in this age group also. So a balanced meal, and at the same time giving them the importance of why is water as important, why is fiber important in their diet, and then explaining them how they should not go to an extreme level of following this healthier lifestyle. Because what's also happening now is the moment this 11-year-old becomes 16-year-old, body image issues
Right.
and excessive extreme approach towards the diet, towards healthy eating, that's as unhealthy. So they should be given a treat once in a while. They should be taught that yes, they can earn their treat. If 80% of the times they're eating healthy, then on the weekend they do earn a treat. Now, by saying that, I don't mean that you teach them that food is a way to reward them for the good things that they do. But they should know that yes, there has to be a balance. And trust me, teaching them balance so early in age is only going to get your girl child more and more stronger and more street smart later, to know how to balance her life later.
How do nutrients such as proteins, iron, calcium, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids support physical growth, bone health, and cognitive development in this stage?
So, like we've been discussing, protein of course helps in your muscles getting stronger. It helps in, of course, some bone formation as well. Protein also is an important factor in hormone production and the immunity. So, protein plays a vital role in our body. Most importantly, protein also satiates you better than any other nutrient.
Okay.
So it also takes 30% extra time to get digested. That means it remains in your gut system for a longer time, satiating you for a longer time, which in kids avoids them to go for a treat very often.
Okay.
So when they are in school, and if you've given them, for example, just a roti and some vegetable preparation, you will see that by the second break they would want to eat some chocolate, or they
Right.
would want to eat some sugar because they are feeling low on energy. Not that the carb didn't give them energy, but at the same time it didn't satiate them for a longer time. So protein satiates you for a longer time. Protein also helps in your gut health by producing the right enzymes. Then let's talk about calcium. Like you said, calcium, vitamin D, most important for bone formation at this time. These are the growing years. This is where mothers are so anxious about their child becoming taller. So there should be a lot of importance given to calcium. Now when I say calcium, like we discussed, milk, not important that milk is the only source of calcium. Calcium is present in cashews, in almonds, in green leafy vegetables, in sesame seeds. So they can try and include these in their mid meals, in their lunch and breakfast, and that's how it will support them. Very important to teach your child to stay away from the screen. Make it a rule that they have to get some sun exposure. So I've also seen this new trend now that my own daughter, 23-year-old, does not want to go out in the sun because she is scared that she's going to get, she'll get pigmentation on her skin.
Okay.
So then I had to actually sit her down even at this age and explain her that how important also these UV rays are, as long as you don't expose yourself too much towards it, and how important it is for the vitamin D3 production. Vitamin D3 not only helps these kids to have better energy concentration, to do well with their peers. If you see today in schools, there's a lot of competition out there.
Right.
There's a lot of peer pressure. So depression sets in much faster. And we are seeing a lot of cases now of depression as early as this age. Vitamin D3 helps with your mood swings. It helps you, somewhere I would say, it helps with confidence. Because when you have enough vitamin D3, your body posture is different. Second, your gait is different. A lot of kids who don't want to do sports is because they get tired too easily or their joints pain is because of the deficiency of calcium and vitamin D3 to be blamed somewhere.
Okay.
So these things will really help them get more confidence, get more active in their life. And then comes iron, which is good for hemoglobin. Iron is very important for the cognitive development also. So all your B vitamins are very important. B6, B12, very important. B6 can be found in most of your leafy green vegetables and your whole grains. B12 definitely more through non-vegetarian sources.
Okay.
But at the same time, a vegetarian can always supplement. Of course, you need to consult your pediatric at this age for the dosage. If your child is completely vegan or you choose to keep him a vegetarian, then maybe B12 can be supplemented.
Okay. So there's no natural source of vitamin B12 for vegetarians.
There is. It's not that it's not there. So tempeh, soy may have a little bit of B12, but not to a large extent. Of course, more so non-vegetarian sources have it. One very important point to remember about B12 is that you may be a non-vegetarian, and this I've seen very often now.
Okay.
You may be a non-vegetarian, but you will still be deficient in vitamin B12.
Okay.
The reason being your gut is not good. So your gut is not producing the right enzyme, which is in turn needed to actually make B12 vitamin or absorb the B12 vitamin in your body.
Okay.
So that's as important. Hence, giving your kids good hydration, probiotics, including some form of fermented foods. Like I said in the beginning, our Indian cuisine is the best cuisine one can actually get their nutrients from. So we have fermented foods like our dhoklas and idlis and dosas and the curd that we make every day at home. All of this will actually help with good bacteria in the gut. And that's when the absorption of B12 is also going to be good. Of all other nutrients is also going to be better. So that's of a really, really important factor to be considered here.
How can we introduce new lifestyle habits or dietary changes to children in this age group gradually, considering their established routines?
So just when you were saying, asking me this, I started remembering my 4-year-old son. He would hate spinach.
Okay.
And I wanted him to have spinach for all the B12 and the folate and calcium and iron that spinach has in itself. So I started telling him that if you eat spinach, you're going to become Popeye. Because he would love watching Popeye. And that was just a way to, motivate him to have more. And the moment I said that, he started having it. So of course, by giving them a motivation. A lot of times they, as early as a 3-year-old, will also have a role model,
Right.
for themselves. And if you can create a motivation there, that will help. Another thing that I did with my son was I started taking him for grocery shopping.
Okay.
Because he had started becoming a very fussy eater, and he would eat some fruits, he would not eat some fruits. So when I would take him for grocery shopping, I would spend like 2-3 hours there, and I would literally pick up each and every vegetable and fruit and explain him that what soil this needs, or why is it important, how would my mother give me that, and how when I ate that I was in a very good mood. So I tried making a lot of stories around it. I know we have to tell them the truth always, the facts always, but sometimes a little storytelling doesn't hurt.
Right.
So if a parent can actually create a story around it, make it more fun, then it also helps. So grocery shopping, taking them along with you. So by the way, the next time that he came, after 2-3 times that he came, he actually pointed out to me that, you know what, that's white bread and that's so bad. And I was so happy to hear that. He went to the frozen section and he said, so many different yogurts are there, but I only will eat the one which you make at home because I know they've added a lot of sugar in it. So I was very happy to hear this from a 4.5-year-old.
Right.
And that said it all, that you have to educate them as early, but educating them in a fun way, in a very relaxed environment. So that really would help. Then getting them to cook with you. So tell them to cut vegetables and tell them to puree something for you. And then you'll be surprised, they'll come up with their recipes. Just last week I visited a friend's place, and her son actually went inside the kitchen and made some very small nut balls, and he gave me to eat. And he's telling me, you know what, if you have this, you will have enough omega-3, and the pain that you're having is going to go away in 2 days. So I said, how do you know about it? He said, I cook, so I know everything. So definitely mother's been taking him to the kitchen, and he's helping her around. So getting them involved in meal preparations, making it fun for them. A 3-year-old may not agree to a bitter gourd or something. So trying to cut it in different cookie shapes, trying to make a smiley face on their omelets is only going to make them have it more, because they're going to relate to it really more easily than anything else. That would be another thing. Again and again, I want to repeat this by leading by example. If you're going to eat processed food, there is a joke circulating on Instagram where a pet says that I'm not allowed treats, but my parent is having a full bag of chips. So I would say even a child may not tell you, but he's seeing it, that you're not allowing the child a treat. But if you end up having some chips, then he's learning from you. So moderation is the key. Yes, but at the same time, depriving them of everything is also not good. So lead by example. If you're allowing them a treat on weekends, allow yourself the same. And at the same time, the best thing is to call their friends over. If you can have a play date, and if you can do something around food, and then so at this age, like such tender age, you tend to get influenced very fast. So if you play a game around food, and if you ask them, ask their friends, would you like to eat this, or do you eat this, and then have a quiz over it, just exactly what you did in grocery shopping.
Right.
That again is going to really make it more fun for them. They look forward to those play dates where you're involving all their friends, making food prep a part of it, and making it more fun.
Right. So small steps would eventually lead to a knowledgeable individual who's very small but still make you learn good things about yourself and food as well. Superb. Okay, so the next question is, how can parents and caregivers involve children in meal planning? We've already included that. Grocery shopping and food preparation to foster a positive relationship with food and encourage a healthy eating habit. I think we've already covered
this. The only thing that I would add on here is never use food as a reward or a punishment.
Okay.
So even if that weekend treat that we are allowing them, we shouldn't be putting it up that the whole week you did your homework well, so you get a reward. Or you're not going to get to eat pasta today because you were a bad kid, or you were naughty when the guests came. So that is when their relationship with food gets defeated right then. I had a case where I was treating someone for binge eating, and I wouldn't understand that, so much of counseling, and I tried to go to the root cause of it, gut issues and everything we took care of. But still, the moment this person was off the plan, person would gain weight, get into binge eating, and then again come back to me. So that is when, after 3 such cycles, when I sat down, I actually sat down and started asking the person what would he or she like during their childhood, and how would they enjoy their mother's food. We started talking about random things, how we enjoy our mother's food, how we miss our mother's food. And that is when this came up, that we looked at food only to get a reward. So this person would like jalebis and would only get jalebis if got up early on a weekend and did the chores, and then would get jalebi, or would not get jalebi for 2 to 3 weeks if didn't behave properly in front of some guests. So then that relationship is broken. Right then you start fearing food. Then another case was where someone was gaining weight as early as 16 and 17-year-old, was gaining and was 138 kilos, close to a bariatric surgery, and then came to me. And then when I started talking to this child, I realized that gives up eating completely, starves himself, loses 4 kilos, and then just goes and binge eats. Or then when he's front of his parents, he doesn't touch food. So you start fearing food. You start looking at food as if, you know, it's some villain, or it's something which when you consume wholeheartedly in one go, and then when you don't want to consume, you just stay away from it. And to teach that child moderation took a lot of time, because the relationship with food was actually defeated right back in childhood. So this is where I would really want to stress this point, that don't ever use food as a reward or a punishment. You can do all the possible other things that we spoke about, but if you use this, everything is going to then go null.
Okay, so Pooja, we've reached the next age limit, which is the next age gap, which is 12 to 20 years. So, as we all know, this is a very crucial age. We hit puberty, we go to higher schools, we have different exposure when it comes to facing the world, facing different people. Schooling and a high school has a difference in approach. So, considering this age gap, my first question would be, can you elaborate on the importance of a balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthier fat for supporting hormonal balances, which would prevent young girls from facing issues like PCOS and PCOD?
So this is where I would first like to highlight the choice of carbohydrates.
Okay.
Because hormonal imbalance will always lead to insulin resistance as the first side effect.
Okay.
So PCOS basically is a polycystic ovarian syndrome, where you have a vicious circle. You don't eat well, or you eat the wrong kind of food. It leads to fat being gained. More fat in the body will again influence your insulin hormone.
Okay.
Your insulin hormone is the hormone which actually takes care of how the carbohydrate driven glucose in your body is parked and used in the body.
Okay.
And if insulin resistance happens in your body, then the cycle repeats. Your food doesn't get absorbed and assimilated by the body, and hence gets turned into fat. Fat again is going to affect the hormone levels. So it's a vicious circle. Now when I say insulin hormone is responsible for taking care of the glucose that we give to our body, what does it exactly mean? So whenever we eat something, especially a carbohydrate, right in our saliva there are enzymes which will convert this into glucose.
Okay.
Finally, glucose is our first source of energy, which comes from carbohydrates. So of course we don't want to eliminate it, because this is where our petrol, our engine is working. Now this will define, this is where what gets defined is how fast is your carbohydrate being converted into glucose.
Okay.
So if I'm going to eat something where my food is being converted into glucose right here at this first stage of digestion, that says that this glucose is fast. It's going to remain in the stream of my blood. It's not going to get parked. The reason being, the brain did not get enough time to tell the pancreas that come on, insulin has to be produced. Because the moment we have this glucose, insulin acts as the travel agent.
Okay.
It picks up this glucose from the bloodstream, and that is when it will park it in the liver. Liver is the organ which will keep giving this glucose to your entire body for use of energy later in the next few hours.
Okay.
The second choice of parking is the muscle. Now it is very important that your child is actually, or a 21-year-old is active. If that 21-year-old is physically not active, then the muscle will not be able to take that much of glucose.
Okay.
And that is when it turns into fat. Coming to the liver, the faster glucose will never reach the liver because there is very little time for it to reach the liver.
Okay.
It will just remain there because enough insulin was not given time to be produced. Hence, it's very important that at this point of time we understand what kind of carbohydrates we are including and at what time are we including it.
Okay.
So that does not mean that you should not eat simple carbohydrates. What are simple carbohydrates? Your fruits are a part of your simple carbohydrates. So do I mean to say that you shouldn't be eating fruits? Of course you should be eating it. But you should eat it at a time when your energy needs are the highest.
Okay.
You should eat it at a time when you've not already consumed a lot of food and then to top it, you're having a fruit.
Okay.
And this is the age, hence we go out for dates, we go out to college, we want to actually sit out in our canteen. And of course now, back in our times we had canteens, now there are different cafes spurring up everywhere. So you need to have that coffee, that caffeine, which is actually going to dehydrate you more. You end up having a pastry, you're having more of sugar, you end up having a wrap or a burger or a sandwich outside, which is again, doesn't really fall in the rules of a balanced meal, and hence it is only glucose which is being produced very fast. So, and of course more fat being given to the body. So this is what pushes them to increase their fat percentage, then leading to hormonal imbalances like PCOS.
Okay.
At the same time, you asked me what are the other nutrients, how do they function? So like I said earlier, an adult or a child or even a 21-year-old, the group of foods, the nutrients that we need remain the same. It depends on their physical activity, on their current health status, if they've been on a medication, if God forbids they've gone through some illness and they've had a deficiency, then of course we need to then change the requirement of that particular nutrient.
Okay.
But definitely proteins, carbohydrates, hydration, iron, calcium, vitamin D, these are some of the basic nutrients that a body would need. This time also calls for a lot of importance for antioxidants. So antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin A, zinc, magnesium, this is what is going to again help a lot, because this is again a time where you're going through so much of societal pressure. This is the time when they have to actually make a choice about which career they will choose.
Yeah.
This is the time they want to become the best, or this is the time where they want to prove that they are more perfect. So that puts a lot of pressure, and antioxidants is nothing but against oxygen damage. The more stress we take, the more we are exposed to environmental hazards, the more free radicals we produce in our body. The more free radicals we produce in our body, the less our immune function is.
Okay.
And the more we are susceptible then to diseases, or more so to depression. So that is why antioxidants at this age play a very important role.
I agree. Depression has been curbing in this, specifically in this age group, having a peer pressure of studies, being, very much known in your group, in your circle, in your communities, very much growing. So that's a different topic which we would, okay.
And having said that, I would also say that in fact today's generation is far more informed than what we were at this age.
Right.
They really know what they want. They really know, how to get there. And at the same time, they are far more wiser than us. They have much more exposure. If social media and internet knowledge is used in the right way, it is in fact a great tool for increasing your intellect and intelligence.
Right.
But at the same time, there is a very thin line between all of this, that what I said, and that is where nourishing your body really plays a very big role.
True, I agree on your point. Okay, the next question, how can teenagers navigate societal pressures and cultural influences on body image and diet while ensuring they meet their nutritional needs for growth and development, including fat diets?
So yes, fad diets are again very much trending.
Right.
Thank God, the keto diet is finally, taken a back seat.
Okay.
There was a time about 3 years back during the pandemic, in fact, people realized that keto can do more harm. Keto diets were, in the first place, introduced for epileptic kids, and
Right.
then because they saw results of weight loss, it became a trend
Trend.
to follow keto diet. And today's generation is going through so much of societal pressures. The image pressure that they have, of course, pushes them towards following fad diets. So it's very important that they're educated about fad diets. Again, a lot of knowledge is available on the internet, but talking to a health professional or even talking to a counselor may help them more with this. Every diet which tells you that you cannot eat one certain food group is a fad diet.
Okay.
So the moment someone tells you that you will lose 5 kilos in 15 days is definitely a fad diet, because you cannot lose 5 kilos
Right.
in such a short span of time. Of course, if you are 100 kgs and up, there is more mass involved,
Mhm.
and that's the reason they will lose a little faster than
As
a
compared,
50
right.
kg person if wants to lose
Mhm.
weight. But that is different. Any diet which tells you that you will completely give up on this particular food group, for example, eliminating carbohydrates completely or eliminating fats completely, it's going to get them nutrient deficient and then play a major role later in their eating behavior patterns. Of course, even in their image issues much later, because for the time being they'll feel good, but later they will not. And at the same time, it will give them toxicity in some other areas. For example, the keto diet did give toxicity in the kidneys,
Okay.
so every fat diet will do that. Any diet which tells you or which prevents you from eating amongst a group of people is a fat diet. If I can sit amongst a group of people and still be able to eat a little from everybody's meal, that is not a fat diet, because then I can sustain that kind of diet and that kind of weight. So that is one of the most foremost important thing. Second is, of course, positive body image, which I must again stress on this fact has to start at your home,
Right.
with your parents, and it has to start as early as even a 3-year-old or a 4-year with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. Another thing that really comes to my mind is mindful eating. Uh, Today, everybody is on a rush. Everybody wants to achieve too much in this 24-hour period, and that puts our food as the last priority in our
Right.
schedule. So when you don't eat mindfully, also is when you will see nutrient deficiencies or you will not see satisfaction. The satiety factor doesn't come in. That is when it puts you into a yo-yo pattern of eating very strictly, then again binge eating, not eating at all, and it is a vicious circle. And most importantly, here comes that you have to how to take care of this is, of course, if they need counseling, reach out. There is nothing wrong in taking counseling, because this is going to have a very, very huge impact. I have had teenagers coming to me with severe gut issues, severe, and going for endoscopy as early as 18 and 17 years of age. It's because they have such low image issues about themselves. I have had kids come to me who had to leave their universities because they were bullied because of the way they looked, and then they had to resort to vaping and smoking
Right.
to, deal with that. So this is where I feel parental support, family support matters the most. So giving them a positive feedback, treating them as a small child and forgetting for some time that they're 21-year-old and holding their hand at this time is very important. And of course, teaching them by leading an example yourself. So actually doing things deliberately with them, going out for an physical activity, if they are not into it, then pushing them, taking them out for a sport, and you also playing with them is what is going to change this image, and that will also help them then deal with what they are going through.
On this, we've already also come across many things, like, you know, when a child is on a heavier side, not eating proper, not having a nourished diet, still parents force them, okay, you're not supposed to have this, you're not without having any knowledge. This is very much common in our society, that once you are crossing that weight which you should ideally have, then parents without any consultation force them to have diets, force them to restrict their meal options, and give them a little meal, which is more required at this point of time. As the age is going, the body is growing, they require proper nutrition, which parents are of course not aware of, as not being a nutritionist themselves. What would you like to suggest in such a situation should be an ideal approach, and what things should parents avoid doing it?
So the first approach should be to actually reach out for help.
Right.
So need not be a nutritionist if they are not comfortable going to a nutritionist. There is ample of help available around you. So you can actually take help from a friend who's too much into healthy eating, or you can take care of take help from a trainer who you know, and involve a trainer to be with your child. The trainer will, the moment exercise comes into the picture, exercise actually helps produce a lot of good hormones.
Right.
The endorphins, the dopamine are released, and that is when your child will be in a different frame of mind then to even accept anything. So the body image issues will only get better. Generally what happens with body image issue people is that they either have a very lanky body, or they have a huge
Right.
belly, or they have large volumes of fat around them. So exercise helps both the extreme conditions. A lean body will only get more toned, and a huge voluminous body will only shrink with exercise. Once you've incorporated this, then slowly and steadily your child will definitely open up to the idea of following the right nutrition. This is where your role as leading by example really matters the most.
Right.
Because then he gets motivated by seeing the changes. Dopamine and endorphins are released. Again, I would want to put a stressing factor here that most of them are vaping at this age. So in fact you will see a change, because there is so much of serotonin, the hormone that calms you down, only is produced when there is enough dopamine and enough of these neurotransmitters being produced by the brain. And that's when your calming hormone serotonin will be produced, and that's when the anxiety somewhere goes down and they will not resort to vaping. The moment they don't resort to vaping, they will be more acceptable to a change in their diet. There will be less changes in their appetite. They will want to eat good food now. They would not want to eat junk. Vaping generally, more so what I've seen through my experience now, is vaping increases their appetite.
Okay.
Hugely. So after one has vaped, an hour or two later, one wants to eat like a huge, humongous portion of meal. So that's going to change once your serotonin hormone is produced. Serotonin hormone is also produced when you're not very negative towards your child. You cannot tell your child, you know what, you've done this and you've been like this. Look at the other children. You
True.
cannot compare them. Then the judgment, the comparison is not going to let them get confident about themselves or even believe in themselves. So most importantly, this comes as a very useful tool. Unfortunately, somewhere still in Indian houses, girls are being given statements like, you're a girl and you should know how to cook, or you're a girl and you shouldn't be vaping, or you're a girl and look at you how you look, you're dark, you're lean, or whatever, right? So of course there is a lot of change, and I'm very happy for this change, but there are still some households where these things are happening. So that is where people need to change. So before thinking of educating your child, I think they should also consider counseling, talking to someone, thinking about more positive ways, and most importantly, keeping the fresh produce at home. If you're going to take away, so I always believe in this. I tell my patients, don't test your willpower.
Okay.
Okay, willpower is not supposed to be tested. I know there are books written on how to increase your willpower, but come on. You've made me sit for the last 3 hours, right? And let's say I have not eaten my breakfast. You keep a Snickers next to me, I will
Of course,
consume it
yes.
because I am tired, right? So I need energy and I will go for that Snickers. Someone who's talking about eating good food always, right? So this is what happens. If you're going to keep junk in front of you, you will definitely end up eating. But let's say you're hungry in the middle of the night and there are only healthier options. So not that I'm promoting that yes you should eat in the middle of the night, but that healthier option that you've eaten is only going to help you feel satiated faster.
Correct.
It's not going to fluctuate your hormones further. It's not going to kill your endorphins, your serotonin. It's going to make you feel calmer, not going to give you a sugar rise. And the next morning, chances are you will be a better person at following the plan. So it's very important that positive reinforcement comes from the parents.
True, rightly said. Okay, so we come to the next age group, which is 21 to 30 years. And my first question for that age group would be, what role does nutrition play in managing symptoms like menstrual cramps, bloating, mood swings, and the specific foods or dietary patterns that can help to calm these symptoms if anyone is facing around?
So menstrual cramps, of course, we know that it's a very natural phenomenon when
Right.
the uterus contracts and wants to disperse of all the fluid from it is when you feel the cramp.
Right.
Now, for some girls, these cramps are unbearable, and
True.
for some girls, it's a very easygoing process. This is where your fluid intake comes to be of most importance.
Okay.
If someone who is dehydrated or is having too much of caffeine and tannin, of course, are stimulants. They pick us up very fast, but at the same time, they dehydrate you. So observe yourself. If you've not had water for about 3 hours and then you want to have a cup of tea and go to the loo, you will still have enough, to excrete out there in the form of urine, right? So that is what happens. Your kidneys get excited and they let out the fluid very fast. And we think that, okay, I've not had water, but it's okay. So tea kind of stimulates the kidneys also to throw out the fluid.
Okay.
And then you're left with dehydration. So this dehydration, of course, is going to affect your uterus also, because then you have less of fluidity around for your uterus to contract. And that's one reason you will get menstrual cramps.
Okay.
You will also get menstrual cramps if you are not physically an active person. So forcing your child, when I say forcing, pushing your child in a positive way to be more active is always going to help, because then what happens is your muscles tend to be at a flexed range,
Right.
and that is when they don't contract very badly. Since we are talking about muscles, magnesium plays a very important role here. Magnesium is very, very important nutrient which helps in muscle coordination, in nerve signaling.
Okay.
So if somebody is going through menstrual cramps and they want to treat it now, then including magnesium rich foods like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, Brazil nuts, even almonds, walnuts are going to only do good to them. Green leafy vegetables, of course. So that will help them deal with the menstrual cramps. A fruit like banana, which is a great source of potassium, which is a great source of vitamin K, and it has enough magnesium. It balances your electrolytes. That means if you're dehydrated, your salts take a back seat and it will balance those electrolytes. It will make all your pelvic region organs more and more softer.
Okay.
It will not get you to lead to constipation, and that's also one reason why girls generally feel very cramped there. So all of these things will help them, but the most important is these are things which you can take care during the
Right.
menses, when you're getting your menstrual cramps. To avoid them, one must take care of limiting the processed food, leading a physically active lifestyle, including good omega-3 fatty acids so that no inflammation is there in the body, and most importantly, having a balanced meal.
Okay. So the solution to every problem is just balancing your diet,
Yes, the
having
most important.
being more active day by day.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the second question is, are there any specific dietary recommendations or interventions for women with conditions like PCOS to manage symptoms and optimize fertility?
So for PCOS, like we discussed, the carbohydrates and the insulin resistance,
Right.
it's very important that you keep your insulin resistance in check.
Okay.
So I would suggest that if you are diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, whereas you have a lot of small cysts in your ovaries,
Okay.
it also leads to one thing. What happens exactly is, why does one have irregular periods with PCOS is because the egg is not maturing well, and this is because the estrogen hormone is not being produced in the right manner.
Okay.
So a lot has been said about sedentary lifestyles, about not eating good food, about having more processed food, but you won't believe this, PCOS is more so stress related. I'll
Okay.
explain you why. When a girl gets her periods, the first day of a period, one hormone called the gonadotropin hormone is released from the brain,
Okay.
and all other hormones are actually released from our endocrine gland. Gonadotropin hormone is your growth hormone. The right amount and the right quality of this hormone on the first day of periods will actually rule the entire interlink between the other hormones that will actually happen during the next 14 to 20 days.
Okay.
So gonadotropin hormone gets produced by the brain. Brain is where our thoughts are produced. Brain is where our calming or anxiety issues actually spurt up, right?
Right.
So through practice, I have seen this, that when girls go through any tragedy or any breakup or any kind of turmoil in their life, the first day of period, if the gonadotropin hormone release is defeated, that is when the entire interlink of hormone gets defeated.
Right.
And trust me, I have tried this with all my PCOS patients and I've seen a huge success.
Okay.
I have seen it even in myself. There are times we women, lose our periods, or we are late, or a
Right.
period cycle is not good. You go back and think the last month when you got your periods on day one, what did you go through? Was it a stressful day? Was it a day when you heard about some tragedy? You were scared, you were anxious, something major happened which got you to overthink. The first 2 days of your periods, what state of mind you were in, will determine your hormone interlink reaction.
Okay.
And that is something which I give a lot of importance to when someone comes to me for PCOS. Of course, processed food नहीं खाना है, physically active होना है. These are all given things for a PCOS. But most important is your state of mind, and at the same time, what kind of carbohydrates you're eating, which we just discussed a few minutes back. So that is going to help with your insulin resistance. The moment you see insulin resistance, you will be in this vicious circle of PCOS.
Right.
So that's the most important thing. Talking about endometriosis. Endometriosis is a medical condition wherein the lining of the uterus, the fluid lining of the uterus, it apes and it is growing outside of the endometrium also.
Okay.
And that is when one sees pelvic pain, irregular bleeding. Now, why does this occur? There are many factors because of which this occurs, genetic factors being one of them, but more so is the environment that plays a big role. So, limiting your trans fats in your diet, limiting again processed food is going to help you. A lifestyle change. Very, very importantly, I would say look out for herbs and spices which are right there in your kitchen. They will do wonders to someone suffering from menstrual cramps,
Okay.
someone suffering from PCOS, someone suffering from endometriosis, because these herbs and spices will help take care of the inflammation. Of course, we need to decide it with caution, because what may agree with you may not agree with some
Right.
other woman or another girl. But our kitchen as a chemist works as a great tool here for people with endometriosis. Endometriosis people should not keep very long gaps in their food intake.
Okay.
So of course, having regular foods is having foods at regular intervals is important, and it does wonders to your digestive system and also to your health and well-being. But in endometriosis, what it does is, because your body is under pressure, under trauma, there is an extra lining which is growing. That means your body is fighting for a foreign body somewhere.
Okay.
Your body is utilizing more energy.
Energy.
The more you feed your body regularly, the more the body will be equipped with good energy to deal with that.
Okay.
And that goes very well for an endometrial patient.
Okay, so you've mentioned spices in your kitchen for PCOS treating and cramps. So can you suggest some which can be helpful to women?
So, having cinnamon water early in the morning for a PCOS, and most importantly, soaking fenugreek seeds because of insulin resistance will do wonders to that person. Because the insulin resistance will come down, and further implication of the vicious circle will somewhere stop.
Okay.
Fenugreek seeds are also a great source of fiber. So if you can consume them, great. If you cannot consume them, at least drinking the water will help with insulin resistance. Cinnamon is a great fat burner. So PCOS will always see more fat around their pelvic area, around their midsection. Cinnamon will somewhere act as a fat burner, of course, not without following a great lifestyle otherwise. For endometriosis, I would say that they also go through a lot of acidity and gut issues.
Okay.
Because somewhere their gut is getting pushed with that extra growth outside the uterus. So they do see some amount of acidity, some amount of belching and acid reflux. So having jeera water early in the morning, having fennel seeds water after your meals, half an hour after your meals, is going to help calm down the digestive system. And that is going to then help you by for eating better and feeling better. It's going to help with a good excretory system. So at least you're not loading onto more toxins after that.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is, what are some of the common nutritional pitfalls or challenges faced by young women in their 20s, and what strategies can be employed to overcome these obstacles?
So young 20s, a lot to do. There is submissions, then there is job search, then there is social life pressure. They want to also socialize a lot, leaves them with very little time for themselves. Here I would, I'm seeing this new trend now in India also, that by 2024 they want to be on their own.
Correct.
They want to not live with their parents. But I would say, okay, that's their personal choice. But if even after doing that, they can get help around, because it's very important. They themselves won't be able to, of course, cope up with so
Everything,
much. There's
right.
a lot to do at this age.
True.
So if they can get some help around, and this help can be used for planning their meals ahead. So a little organization, like on the weekends, they can literally pack some mid-meals for themselves, which they can just put in their bag. So if you open my bag now, you will get some Ziploc bags with some makhanas, or with some almonds, or with some berries inside it. So at all times when you have healthier snacks available, then you're not, starving yourself, because you're so involved in something or the other. It leaves you with very little time sometimes to even have your lunch at the right time. So these small snacks come in handy. But again, you don't have the time every day to do this. So setting aside even half an hour on the weekend will really help them. That's the most challenging thing for them to do, to eat well through the day in their busy schedules. So this tip will really help them. If they just make, I would say just make like, take 5 different snacks and put them together in Ziploc bags for 5 different days.
Right.
And that will help them. Second is taking help, meal planning. So if on the weekend they decide that, on Monday I'm going to make like a dal masoor at lunch and some chicken gravy at dinner, that will help them procure all the groceries and the fruits and vegetables needed for the entire week. So that's not going to leave them unsettled during the week. So even if they choose to hire a cook to do that, they need to first see to it that the grocery is in place. So doing that over the weekend will really help them. Then hydration is so important. So a lot of times in their busy schedules, they don't hydrate themselves. They may follow the first 2 points that we discussed, but if they're not going to hydrate well, they're not going to be able to absorb that food well. So keeping a bottle at all times with you will always help you, carrying a small bottle, and then of course refilling it whenever you want. The point is, the moment you have that bottle, you're going to keep sipping.
True.
Otherwise you're going to forget about it. Learning some cooking skills will always go a long way. So there are going to be times when mom is not available, or the maid or the cook was not available, and at these point of times then Zomato is the only option that they can think of. So learning some cooking skills will always come in handy. And also will come handy is when you go grocery shopping, and you can learn the healthy swaps. For example, a mayo in salad dressings can be swapped with a hummus or a yogurt dressing,
Right.
or a chocolate at all times. Of course, dark chocolate is very rich in magnesium, so there is nothing wrong in having dark chocolate every alternate day. A small piece is not going to hurt you, but at the same time, you can't overdo chocolates because finally it does has refined sugar in it. So if you want to have chocolate, instead of that having berries, so kind of learning the healthy swaps again will help them in their busy schedules. And most importantly, organizing also means removing some me time, because they're not going to be able to do this if they don't have their me time. If they set aside 1 hour of physical activity, their dopamine rush is not
Right.
going to happen. So none of this will happen, or will actually get productive if they don't feel good about themselves. At this age, it's also very important that they do regular health checkups,
Okay.
because they are more exposed. Like we spoke about vaping, they may be a passive smoker, they may be exposed to smoking around them, because this is a very common sight at this age. So it's very important that they get themselves regularly checked, so that if at all there is a toxicity or a deficiency, then can be taken care of. Otherwise, low energy levels will only make it more difficult and challenging for them to actually do all the commitments and the responsibilities that they are subjected to at this age.
Right. Okay. So Pooja, we've also come across one ideology that having your meals on a specific duration, like supposingly, if I'm having my breakfast every day morning 8 o'clock, having my meals every day at 1:30 without fail, helps you in gaining more energy, absorbing that food to the toppest level which your body requires. How would you like to? What is your take on this? Uh, you know trend which we've always come across.
It's the best thing to do.
Okay.
Because your body is more disciplined, and all your enzyme production, your hormone production, so it's like you're going into a factory, and the workers know that at this time this raw material is going to come, so I have to process it and finish it, because by this time the second batch is going to come.
Right.
So the workers are always on their toes. That is what gives your body more efficiency to work. And of course, the more efficient the workers are, the more efficient the output is going to be. So you're going to see that in your skin, in your hair, in your moods, in your health and well-being overall. So of course it goes a very long way. But at the same time, we are living in a very practical
Exactly.
world. It's not really that easy to do that, right? So following the body, a circadian rhythm of the body does wonders. Like we discussed, the body is always going to be metabolically more active, more alert. But even if we follow a half an hour
Okay.
up and down, is not going to make a big difference. So like according to the Ayurveda science, ideally one should be up at 4 a.m. and one should stop eating after 5:30
Right.
and go to bed by 8:30. Now I don't see that happening unless we go and become saints in the woods. That's not happening. So let's be more practical. If not 4 o'clock, at least we can start our day by 6 o'clock, include an activity, and maybe not eat breakfast every day at 8 o'clock, but 8, if not 8, 9 o'clock, if not 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. But keeping in mind that if I am waking up, I follow some basic rules. First, within the first 1 hour of waking up, nourish your body, because your body has been undernourished and starving for the last 7 to 8 hours. Then seeing to it that you're eating, you're doing some physical activity and eating according to the activity that you have done.
Okay.
And keeping in mind that post this, every 2.5 hours, maximum 2.5 hours, I must eat a little bite, a small
Okay.
portion. And seeing to it that I must finish my last meal 3 hours before my sleep time. So that itself also, by its own means, is some discipline set in the body, if not the correct timings.
We all hate interruptions, but this is for good. Our conversation with Pooja Bhargava will continue in the next episode. Till then, stay tuned, stay fit, stay strong, race above, and once again, happy Women's Day.